The theme is disguises. When I thought of the theme disguises, it took me back instantly to the summer of 2003 when I had to use a little subterfuge. And for those that don't know, subterfuge means that you use some lies or deceit in order to obtain a goal. This goal was getting a job. I had to use some subterfuge to bamboozle some bankers. This is how it all started. I instantly needed a job after getting out of college, and that first summer I made sure I had nice dress clothes. So I went and bought a suit. Went to the Men's Warehouse, bought a nice classic black suit with a white shirt and a black tie with subtle white dots. All of them had fancy names on it that many of bankers and fancy white people would wear, whether it was Brooks Brothers or Tommy Hilfiger or Polo Ralph Lauren, which I was wearing all the designers. I was trying to cover all my waspy Aryan designers at one time to show that I was willing to fit in and be another brick in that wall of business. But one of the things that was holding me back was experience. I had none of that. Because while I was in college, I did not take full advantage of getting internships. I worked at a temporary agency every summer. And at that temporary agency, oh man, daggone plane. That plane will probably come through. Shoot. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Bamboozled bankers. When I think of the times that I had to use a disguise, it would be my story on bamboozled bankers. I had to use a little subterfuge to kind of get to my goal. Subterfuge using deceit or lies to reach a goal. The goal was getting a job, not a loan, not direct money from a banker, but just getting a job. It was the summer of 2003. I had just graduated from college and I was looking for some opportunity. And what most people do when they are looking for an opportunity is network or rely on past skills. I had not really networked or increased skills that would lean to my major. My major was in business management with a concentration in money and finance. And I thought that I could just get a job with my degree. No, because it was 2003 and most of the jobs that were in banking or any kind of financial field at the time, right before I believe the Enron and all that fallout, was a lot of commission only jobs. And I was like, I need to check now. I probably could have took those commission jobs because I was just on my parents' couch or my old bedroom. But I said I needed money. And I went to the person that gave me jobs all those summers before while I was in college. And this person I refer to as Mr. Nature Boy or Ric Flair. Ric Flair, in this case, is the guy that ran the temporary agency that had gotten me the job at a warehouse in Durham that involved somebody that was mentally crazy. Yeah, he definitely had a diagnosis where he thought his father was the Predator from the movie Aliens vs. Predator, or just Predator 1 and 2. 1 and 2 I like the best. But he thought his father had an invisible suit and would come visit him. He was really crazy. So I went to the person that put me in that crazy role, which we'll call it Mr. Flair. Mr. Flair advised me that you should just create a resume and anything that you are lacking in, cover it in the cover sheet or the cover letter. Make the cover letter address any lackings and then respond to it with good answers about how you can overcome those we'll call them growing edges is the term that they use in the business world now, as opposed to negatives or problems or concern. Your growing edges. And those growing edges were many, and I began to list them off, and he had to stop me because I felt like I was going to get a prize by telling people how bad I was at work or getting a job. But he stopped me, advised me of the positives, and he kind of gave me a good amount of confidence in what I could do to get a job. And he believed in me because he knew I showed up for work every day, did what I was supposed to do, helped him make money over those 4 years, even though he would call it last minute or tell me how long the drive was. And I did it because I needed to work. And they paid good money compared to making $8 an hour. I was making 15, 16, which was good money when you don't have any real bills. But at this point, when I'm sitting in his office filling out this resume, I've realized I should have invested in one of those $8, $7 an hour jobs, maybe at a bank or towards a career, as opposed to just leaning on my, sheepskin or my paper, my degree, hope getting me in. But he said, I'll help you out because you're a good guy. I'll take you to my advisor. Well, better yet, I'll give you the card. You go over there and you speak to him when you're free. I told him I'm free right now. Now, mind you, Mr. Ric Flair, the reason I call him that is because he had that blonde hair like the wrestler Ric Flair. He also dressed very nice, monogram shirts, fancy Beamer, lots of money, owns the temporary agency, told me to go meet with his financial advisor at Scott & Stringfellow, which is a division of the local bank BB&T. I said I will go do that when I have free time. By free time, I meant as soon as I left that office, I got in my car, figured out the address, because at the time I didn't have a smartphone to type in an address, and this was at the time period where you would print out directions, or I call it your directions would have a staple in it, so you would go home, print out the MapQuest, and figure it out. He gave me the MapQuest directions and said, go there whenever you can. These are the office hours. I noticed we're within the office hours. I immediately drove the 6 miles from his office to the financial advisor's office. Went in there, Scott and Stringfellow, and said, hello, I'm Mr. Thurston Manley. I'm interested in a position at your banking facility or financial advising. Not really knowing what they do there at Scott and Stringfellow, because I didn't even know they were a division of BB&T at that time. But I went in, said, hello, help me, give me a job. The lady at the front desk said, oh, okay, I'll reach out to him. And I dropped. I was like, I was sent here by Mr. Flair. He said you could help me. I walked into the office in the back where this guy, we'll call him Mr. Banker. I say, hey, Mr. Banker, how are you doing? I'm Thurston Manley. I just graduated Guilford College. I am looking for a career in banking. I have worked several years for one of your clients, Mr. Flair. He said, oh, yeah, Mr. Flair, we love Mr. Flair. He said he would appreciate it if you, Mr. Banker, would speak on my behalf to help me get a position or give me some advice of getting in here. And he said, oh, well, since Mr. Flair sent you, I will gladly give you a good reference. So he wrote down the name of who I would need to contact in Winston-Salem. And they have a program that would help get people with new degrees with little experience into the program and give them kind of an education. They called it like a BB&T university. And you go through the university, you pick your field, they'll give you the class and they'll help you out. And I'll see about getting you in there. I don't know. It might be tight to the deadline. And I noticed that he had a class ring on with an M on it, which was Michigan. I was like, oh, Michigan, the big house. And then I started dropping all the references I knew from Michigan, from the Potskis of Hamtramck to, everything but Eminem I said about Michigan. He's like, oh, yeah, the Wolverines. I was like, I love that team. Who likes Ohio State? Notre Dame, River Bend. How dare they put a bend in a river in a town so small as Notre Dame? They're not really in Notre Dame, but they call it River Bend, Indiana. I was laying it on thick. And he said, well, talk to this lady tomorrow, or she's usually in on some Saturdays, but you can check again on Monday. By now, I left that other office at 9. I'm at his office at 10:30. The place that he's telling me to contact is in Winston. Winston is a good 2-hour drive from where I was. Knowing I can get there by 5, I'm going to do that. But I don't tell him. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll see about contacting on Monday. I'll contact her as soon as I can. And do you mind if I just mention your name? She's like, yeah, it shouldn't make any difference. So I immediately drove up there to meet with this other lady, Miss Secretary. So I drive to their main building at BB&T, meet with the secretary and say, hey, I was sent here by Mr. Banker of Raleigh. He said that he needed to get me into this program immediately. He knew the timeline was coming up, and I just wanted to make sure I was in. He said my name should be on the file. Name was not going to be on that file at all, but he wanted to make sure that that reference went in. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Banker of Raleigh. Oh, he comes highly recommended. Yeah, we'll definitely put you on this program." And immediately, they already feel it's full for Monday, but we'll see if we can get you in on it. I don't know. See if you can get this paperwork over to the university near Wake Forest. It's our bigger campus, and that's where the program actually will be. I was like, "Oh, great. I'll see if I can get that by Monday. I might have to drive back up." She's like, "Yeah, they usually close by 5, but we'll get it there by 5 Monday." Still Friday. I'm done with her. It is now 3 o'clock. Oh, I can get there. It's only 20-minute drive per the new MapQuest directions that I got printed out. And I immediately drove over there, met with them, gave her the paperwork. And while I was giving the paperwork, one of my homeboys walked by from high school, Mr. Bradley Thacker, walked by, and I said, "Hey, I know you." And he said, "Yeah, I know you too." Haven't talked to him in 6 years. Started talking him up, saying, "Hey man, this job pay you good." He's like, "This is the range. This is what you can do." And I put all my resume stuff, all my application stuff, put it in, put him as a reference, put Mr. Banker and Rollins as a reference, and then put big client Mr. Flair as a reference. All 3 references. Got a call on Saturday saying, "Oh, we made a mistake. You should have been on this program. I don't know why we didn't." They're lying because of my lying. They thought they had made a mistake about not putting me on the program, that this guy, Mr. Banker and Raleigh, had submitted it, and they overlooked it. They didn't, because I got in at the last second. And they put me on the program for Monday. They just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's last minute. Can you show up to this Marriott hotel this time period?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's not a problem. I'll be there Monday at 10. So I got there Monday, 10 a.m. They had a room saved for me. I had to go through 3 days worth of interviews. 3 days. I took 2 suits. I had to buy another suit on the next night because I realized I had to dress up every day for this 3 days, from which actually turns out to 4 days, because it was Monday, Tuesday. It was Monday evening is kind of when you get there, you just have a dinner Monday night, but then Tuesday and Wednesday, and you leave on Thursday morning. You have like an exit interview to ask how it went. But I got suits on those 2 days, had to go to the local mall, buy some other stuff on my little bit of money. Couldn't get it, like I couldn't afford any new suits or anything out the mall. I had to go to like a Marshall's. I almost went to the Goodwill. Man, it was a struggle. But I got all the clothes, covered all the days, did great on the interviews, and all that struggle, all that subterfuge, still didn't get the job. Because I had taken another one. And I didn't finish the application with them because I had another job. But that is when I had to use my disguise to lie my way all the way into free hotel stay for 4 days and several interview processes. So those are some bamboozled bankers. Thank you guys. Next story coming. Disguises, second story, water to wine. Now, this is not a biblical story. I just used the biblical title to reference to be funny. Water into wine. Now, I was in college, Guilford College. And while at Guilford College, I had the ability to network outside of the school and kind of go in between all the different groups or segments at the university. I call it a university. You should just call it a college. It was small, but I played on the football team, so I got along with the football players. I got along with the hippie kids. I got along with the international kids and students, and the staff kind of knew me. And by staff, I don't mean really the faculty. I mean like the cleaning staff, the security staff. I got along enough with the faculty. I may have burned some bridges over there, but we'll talk about that later in another story. But I was able to network outside of the school. And as soon as I turned 21, one of the first things I did was try all different types of beers and wines and things like that, all the way from Mad Dog 2020 to the best I could afford of Ruffino, a nice fine Chianti wine that had the little DOCG label letting you know it came from Italy. But one thing I didn't have was monies. Now, I was able to kind of have this disguise of knowing what the heck I was talking about on wine just because I've read the labels. But you know how that fake bougie you get when you're in college, like, oh, I do this, and little pretense on it. You say that you knew all this about wine, yet you still threw ice in all of your whiskeys and bourbons and scotches that came in fancy plastic bottles at the bottom shelf of every ABC store because that's all you could afford. And I noticed that a lot of people on campus had one or two sets of dress clothes. And you go to some of these parties, and nobody's wearing the dress clothes to these parties because they were keggers that were outside, or they were kegs that were in dorms, and it would be a lot of what we call beer pong. I think the inappropriate name for it that we used then was Beirut, but beer pong, where you throw the ping pong ball in the cup and then you got to drink it. Probably not able to do that now with COVID running rampant, or that ball hitting the floor and then putting it back. Yeah, it was a bad idea. But I like those parties enough, but I felt we needed a nicer one. And I felt the way to leverage this was in one of my marketing classes. I learned about prestige pricing and the allure of a party and how you could maybe use some of the ladies to force the guys to spend more money. Kind of like a sex sales situation. And I decided to throw a wine party because I enjoyed wine. I liked wine. Not a real complicated palate, but I knew what I liked. And I don't like Mad Dog 2020. But I'm willing to drink Conchi Toro or anything that you see at your local grocery store. And I had developed a connection with the local store, the Wine Warehouse. And the Wine Warehouse is no longer with us, but every now and then, every quarter, I think they did a clearance wine sale. And they would sell gallons of wine for like $2 or $3. But the interesting thing I noticed is they sold wines that you wouldn't see at our local Harris Teeter that everybody else would see, because the Harris Teeter is near campus. And these labels were different. And when people come over to my dorm room at the time, which was a suite, we had two people. It was me and Doug, that you probably heard about in previous podcasts, and the RA, and then a total of three other international students. We were representing Israel and Pakistan between the three, and another guy named Caesar, who was a brother from Winston-Salem. So another North Carolina black fellow. And I came up with this idea to throw wine parties because we just had acquired a new bar that we had got out of the trash, which was a bookcase, and some subterfuge was used to get milk crates. And we had taken the milk crates and strapped it to this bookcase and reassembled the bookcase around it, and we had a bar. And we also had some Christmas lights we put up, and some couches that we had put down, and some rugs we got from Goodwill. The couches we also got from the Salvation Army, for $30 a piece. So we had two old looking couches in there. And we said we should throw a wine party because everybody has a set of dress clothes that they will wear to class for a presentation. And the problem was we didn't have money for the wine party. And we felt that some of the people at the party may or may not be underage, which means you had to register your party at Guilford College. This was going to be a problem because we couldn't register. If we registered a party, it means that people would be checking on us, and they would probably shut the party down if anybody was underage. And we had to provide like a permit, and we had to have I think we even had to have a certain grade level and all this stuff of other people there, and approvals from other people in the dorms near us. So we said we couldn't do that. So to get around that, we realized that the schedule for security to come around and shut down parties, meaning that you had a party of like 5 or more people in your suite, or 6 or more people that did not live in that suite, you would have a party. They would shut it down. They didn't start doing that till 9 or 10 o'clock. It's like, okay, I got something there. Why don't we throw an evening party? So we decided to throw this party at 7. Perfect. Don't have to register. Start at 7. We're going to have wine. We need cheese, crackers, and wine. All these things happen to cost money because we live in what we call the real world. How are we going to get this money? I was like, boom, I got an idea. We're going to do tickets. Can we print tickets? We could print tickets, but then if we figure out a way to print tickets, somebody else would too. So we wouldn't have a way to really track it. So what we did was we went to the Dollar Tree and bought those raffle tickets that come on 1.5 so we can match up the numbers. So there's like one number on one side and the same numbers on the other side of the ticket. So we keep one, they get one. So we can check the numbers in the order they come in. Even if they went and bought other raffle tickets, we could check. Now, true, by the end of the night, after we've been drinking, we ain't checking numbers, just letting everybody in. But we would sell those tickets for $3 for one person and $5 for two. And we sold it as kind of like a date night thing. Everybody gets dressed up. Evening wear. It's a wine tasting. We'll have several courses and we'll have cheese and crackers. That's how we're promoting it. So I reached out to Caesar. He had a different set of friends. I reached out to one of my friends that was in the suite that was from Pakistan. He had a different set of friends. And they wanted to go out. They weren't heavy drinkers, but it's nice to go out and everybody be dressed better because it's less likely to have a bar fight if everybody's in suits and evening gowns. And you're going to want to take your girl. So we pushed it. It was like parties in 2 weeks. These are the tickets. We didn't sell any in the first week, but the second week when they know the party was going to be real, we started selling them. One ticket for $3, 2 for $5. Getting all the money. We kind of totaled up the money. We came out to about $300. We was like, oh man, what are we going to do? We got to get wine for everybody. So we figured out the math. It'd be like half a bottle of wine per person would probably do it. So we counted up the amount of people we had. We figured we just get these gallons of wine, these 3-gallon big jugs, and we just made sure we went through Harris Teeter and the local food line, took pictures of their wines, and went to the wine warehouse when they had their clearance sale and made sure that they didn't match up. So these wines were cheaper. We were paying $3 for a couple of gallons. All the wine we paid for was $45, but we needed cheese and crackers, and we knew we couldn't just do block cheese. So one of my friends, Steven, reached out to him and was like, hey, man, we won't charge you for a ticket if you can hook us up with some cheese and wine. Some cheese and crackers, not wine. We had the wine. So he went to the local fresh market, which is equivalent of Whole Foods or organic store. He bought cheese and crackers. And he's like, hey, you got to let me in and these 2 ladies in that live near, I think his girl at the time or a girl he was talking to or scheming on. And he's like, yeah, if you let all 3 of us in, I got your cheese and crackers. She's like, we're fine. Yeah, shoot. 3 of y'all, that's only $8. You can probably bring in $20 worth of wine, worth of crackers and cheese. He got the crackers and cheese. And then my homeboy, Ivan, the Bulgarian man, he brought in the Sangria Blanco. And we was like, yeah, we're not charging you. You bring in the Sangria Blanco? He's like, I got you. So he did the fruit and the wine, and we got all the wine. But we was like, we need to do presentations of each thing. And now, after we bought the wine and gave out the free tickets, we realized we only making $60. But we're like $60 between me and my boy Doug. That's $30 a piece. We straight. Everybody else is just getting paid off of like, we threw this party, like Caesar and Steven and Ivan. They're getting paid off of knowing they threw the party, got it for free. They're having a good time. So that's how we promoted it. But we was like, yo, we got to have a backstory. So we began telling the people like, oh, well, this wine, I got it shipped from my uncle. He owns the Blue Note in Chicago. The Blue Note, you might know the club because it was across the street from the Playboy Club. And it was a club that a lot of jazz people hung out at. And it was more receptive to the black clientele of Chicago. Blue Note, completely made up. I think I got the name from somewhere, but I heard something about Hugh Hef having a Playboy Club. So it was kind of based in reality. And then I started telling people, we're going to have raffles. And you can buy extra tickets at the door for a raffle. Because when I was at the Dollar Tree, not only did I see the dollar tickets, I saw wine glasses. And these wine glasses were, average at best. But they had like little blown grape designs in them. So you can tell they're for wine and stuff. El Cheapo. They're $1 a piece. But they had a sticker on them that said made in Italy. So we were going to raffle those off at the wine party. And people were abuzz because then I started carrying around, I got fancy blown glass from Italy to be raffled off at the event and see if you can win. Any ticket you bought is going in the bucket, but you can buy extra ones there. So we then began selling extra tickets there, and the money starts going up, and we began to raffle them off. And when I went to get the wine, I also got nice little index cards of descriptions because they were clearance wine. Those descriptions were going to be thrown away. So I took those, presented each one, and they, of course, they could sell Wild Irish Rose to somebody with these descriptions. A fine taste, tastes like the bottom of a Firestone tire, if you will. But I was, pumping it up, and it's like, oh, it tastes like this. It has an aftertaste, and people were turning down wines that people had brought in from Harris Teeter that were nice, like $15 wine, but they saw it. It's like, oh, that's at Harris Teeter. This one I know is very expensive, which was not. It was like a quarter of the price, and they were just drinking it up because it's sweet wine, so they loved it. And by the end of the night, we had cheese crackers, had Steven download a CD that was all Rat Pack music and Ella Fitzgerald, play that on loop, turn the lights down low, threw sheets over the Salvation Army couches, so all the couches look all black, nice table, and people loved it. Cheese and wine, and we wound up throwing 4 more, I think at least 2 or 3 more of those wine parties, and people just ate it up and got the raffle. Some of them probably still have those glasses to this day that came out the Dollar Tree that they probably spent $9 in raffle tickets for, that they thought came from either Italy or the closing of the Blue Note in Chicago. I'd like to apologize to everybody that got hustled. I'm sorry. It was what we needed to do to make that money. By the end of the night, we had actually made $150. So we got paid to party. Shout out to my partner in crime, Doug, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly. He would never have done that. And Steven and Ivan for the support. And Caesar. Reluctantly, I do send a shout out to you too. But thank you for the support. I apologize. But that is how we made water into wine. Go Quakers. Thank you. You have reached the end of the Manly Mythical Story Emporium episode Disguises. Hope you enjoyed the stories. And at the end of the episode, I'd like to always remind you, please follow, like, and subscribe. Give me many stars on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Leave feedback, negative, positive, whatever. I accept it all. Hopefully some of these stories will make their way to the Moth, which I plan on attending. They got a virtual Moth storytelling story slam. I guess it's still a story slam, even though it's virtual, with North Carolina in mind. So virtual story slam. I'm going to try to get one of these stories on here, whittle it down. And as you know, if you're a regular listener at this time, I like to leave with my final thought. Usually it's something that happened to me during the week. Well, this week I had a rude awakening, and I can't believe nobody told me this. I thought it was maybe a racial divide or a cultural divide. It dealt with with jeans. I did not realize that people don't wash their jeans after they wear them. People wear them for months without washing them. Apparently, Levi Strauss, one of the CEOs, owners, one of the first leads, I don't know who it was, read the article. He said you could probably just wash them once or twice a year. I have never. I was like, clutch my pearls. I could not understand. I grew up where you wore your clothes, your jeans, and people would pick on you if you wore a pair of jeans on Monday and then turn around and wore them on Friday. They would think you were broke and lacked a wardrobe. So in order not to be picked on, I definitely had several pairs of jeans, which were very noticeable, and people were hating on me because I had when I was in high school, I had the slick jeans and the 8-ball pantsuit and things like that. So when I wore them, you knew what the jeans were. It wasn't just like a plain denim or plain stonewash jeans. It was like, oh yeah, we saw you wear that. You wore that 8-ball on Monday and you're wearing it again on Friday. So I never did that. Or jeans that had like leather words down it, like Slick, or I think was a brand, or Cross Colors, like an orange pair of jeans. You ain't wearing orange jeans twice in a week. You better stretch it out. You better separate it. But I did that, and I just didn't know. People are not watching. That's nasty. I was aghast to hear that. That's what you're supposed to do. But I don't know. I guess I'm cleaner than most for once, and it was just shocking to me. I just couldn't believe it. That stuck with me this week, and also we found out this week that Trump President Trump, number 45, caught the COVID and he spread it to everybody. And I got a new phrase, which was super spreader. Which now, if this podcast doesn't go well or I should lose my job, I will become a stripper and my name will be Super Spreader. And why would it be Super Spreader? Because on Center Stage, Super Spreader, we call him Super Spreader because everybody can get it. And I thank you guys for listening to Thurston J.Y. Manley, Super Spreader on Center Stage. Please like and subscribe. Follow me. I appreciate the support. Thank you guys. Oh, and you can click on the link and support the podcast. So give me some dollars so we can get some video done. And hopefully I can get some merch done. I'm working through that now. So you can get you some shirts and support. Support your local Super Spreader known as Thurston J.Y. Manley. Goodbye. Thank you guys for listening.